Hi, welcome to Boosting Employee Engagement with Automated Cloud-Based Time and Attendance. If you're on Twitter, our marketing team will be live tweeting throughout the webinar using hashtag employee engagement, or you can follow us directly at nettime. This webinar is being recorded and will be emailed out to all registrants. So if you need to step away or you have colleagues who want to view the webinar later, we'll have that ready for you tomorrow. My name is Jennifer Spencer. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Nettime Solutions. And today I'm going to cover one of my favorite issues that affects organizations of all shapes and sizes, employee engagement. And because Nettime Solutions is a cloud-based time and attendance company, I'm looking forward to exploring how services like automated HR systems can help accentuate your company culture and help you boost your organization's overall employee engagement. So in today's webinar, first, we'll look at what employee engagement really means and what automated time and attendance can do to impact employee engagement. And we'll visit the financial implications that come with employee engagement or disengagement. I'll take us through the reasons why disengagement tends to occur as it relates to HR systems and processes. And then I'll show you why stratustime in particular will help boost employee engagement through its features and functionality. And then finally, we'll close with a Q&A session. And the question field is accessible to you throughout the webinar. So as questions arise, feel free to enter those directly into the control panel of GoToWebinar. And we'll do our best to answer all your questions at the end of our session. When you consider that as much as 80% of an HR department's time is spent on administration and paperwork, there's really no surprise that so many organizations are looking for ways to leverage employee self-service with their HR systems. We find that employees who have direct access to their own time and attendance data, like their PTO accruals, their schedules, and their timesheets, they're more satisfied and more engaged. Likewise, the HR employees, perhaps those of you on the webinar today, are juggling hundreds or even thousands of employee payroll records and time off accruals. And when automation and self-service is added to HR processes, those hardworking HR directors and payroll managers experience a reduction in stress and frustration, which in turn keeps them more engaged in their work. So other benefits of HR systems, of automated HR systems, can include reductions in employee absenteeism, improved work satisfaction, increased regulatory compliance, plus an increase in employer trust and employee accountability. We'll dive deeper into a few of these areas, but first, let's take a quick look at why you might want to make employee engagement a priority in your organization. So simply put, employee engagement is the emotional and functional commitment an employee has to his or her organization. Now, employee engagement isn't necessarily synonymous with employee happiness or even employee satisfaction, but rather an engaged employee actually cares about his or her work and the company. And engaged employee isn't just working to receive a paycheck or promotion, but this person is working on behalf of the organization and its goals. And when you have employees aligned with your organization in this manner, they tend to use discretionary effort that results in higher service, quality, and productivity, which will lead to better customer satisfaction and increased sales. And increased sales usually points you toward higher levels of profit. So maybe you're thinking, okay, Jennifer, that all sounds nice and warm and fuzzy, but let's get down to brass tacks. Well, according to a Towers-Watson study of 50 companies over a one-year period, organizations with high employee engagement had a 19% increase in operating income and nearly 28% growth in earnings per share. And a similar study conducted by Hay Group found that organizations with engaged employees are generating revenue growth that is 2.5 times higher than their counterparts. Now, for every success story I can share with you, I could also try to scare you with the costs that come from disengaged employees. But I won't linger here, except for maybe one figure, $350 billion. That's how much actively disengaged employees are costing the American economy every year. Gallup conducted that study, and if you'd like more information, just let me know and I can get that to you offline. But when I look at these figures, I'm really not surprised to learn that today's CFOs and other executive leaders are now measuring and monitoring employee engagement and treating it with the same significance as profitability and customer loyalty. So let's stop and take a quick poll. I'm curious, how many of you on the webinar today work for an organization that is either monitoring or is at least recognizing the value of employee engagement? So let me go ahead and launch the poll here. And you can go ahead and respond to that question right in your control panel. Is your organization monitoring or recognizing the value of employee engagement? Yes, no, or I'm not sure. Okay, it looks like we've got everyone responding. So according to those of us on the webinar, 67% of us say yes, our organizations are recognizing or monitoring the value of employee engagement. And 33% have said no. And no one's not sure, which is great. Let me close the poll there. So disengagement happens for a variety of reasons, but one that's completely controllable are unnecessary errors. So what automated time and attendance can do for your employees is probably best seen among those HR employees who are juggling hundreds or thousands of employee payroll records and time off accruals. Time and attendance software greatly reduces the number of hours spent on manual timesheets, and it virtually eliminates any post-payroll work from unnecessary errors. In fact, our clients who switch from paper time cards and Excel-type spreadsheets find their payroll process takes half the amount of time it used to take. There's no longer a need for anyone to manually put hours into payroll because all of the time cards, including accrual data, is just seamlessly exported and imported into their payroll system, all in under 5 minutes. We see quite a few companies that have payroll departments of 1 or maybe 2 employees, and it's very easy for seemingly small things to slip through the cracks. So for example, many companies have PTO policies in which the amount you could accrue grows at various anniversary points within your tenure. This is a very common approach to PTO accruals. But for companies that are handling time and attendance and time off accruals manually, it's not uncommon for an individual who had transitioned from, say, his 4th year to his 5th year to miss out on additional accrued PTO he had earned. It's then up to someone, either the employee manager or payroll manager, to catch that error and then make the necessary adjustments. And that additional work can sometimes take hours, retroactively applying PTO accruals to individual employee banks. So what happens to your employee engagement in this scenario? The employee becomes frustrated, even angry, now not trusting that any of his payroll is or has been correct. And for the payroll manager burdened with maintaining accurate payroll, these added stressors also lead to disengagement and burnout. Because let's face it, no one ever pops their head into the payroll office to say, hey, thanks so much for getting my payroll right. So let's explore how this situation could have been avoided. Had this company been using automated time and attendance, these PTO accrual policies would have been preset. And on the first day of this employee's 5th year, his accrual rate would have changed accordingly. No extra work for the payroll manager means no unnecessary errors, no employee frustration, no disengagement, and an environment where all staff can stay focused on the work that matters most to the organization. Disengagement is also prevalent when an employee doesn't have access to his or her manager, and particularly when management is needed so employees can continue to complete regular job functions. I recently posted a blog about this type of disengagement, and I'll be sure to send that to you after the webinar. But basically, I had a manager who was just never around when I needed her. I was working at an organization that did not use any kind of automated or self-service HR software. And even as the director of my department, I needed additional sign-off on certain business processes like payroll, as well as any significant schedule changes. And as I'm sure you'll all agree, there's something very disengaging about moving through an assignment and then just hitting a wall. So now if we look at this situation with a self-service feature added in, if I'm an employee wanting to request time off, I could log into the system myself to first check and see if other employees in my department had been approved for time off during that same time frame when I myself am hoping to go on vacation. So if my company has a policy that say no more than 2 people in each department can be out at the same time, this feature is extremely valuable, especially before I make plans with my family and possibly incur any expenses that might be associated with my vacation. Disengagement, employee disengagement, that is, also frequently spurs from employer distrust. Many companies have embraced cultures of transparency by doing things like instituting open book management in an attempt to break down the barriers that can exist between employees and employers. And this can work for some organizations, but errors in employee payroll, even accidental miscalculations, they can result in massive distrust and disengagement. And in addition, knowing that all staff, depending on their pay group, are being treated fairly and equitably puts employees at ease. Time tracking also keeps employees accountable for the time they are on and off the clock, and features like biometric fingerprint scanners ensure that punches are truly being made by each individual employee, and some employees aren't beating the system by having friends punch for them. So sophisticated biometric fingerprint readers use the idiosyncratic arches, loops, and whorls of fingerprints to identify each employee. We have a biometrically enabled clock. It's called our nettime clock. And in and of itself, it also serves as an extension of the HR department by offering employees self-service for tasks such as reviewing hours, checking schedules, requesting time off, and checking accrual balances. All can be done right from the clock. Speaking also of employer distrust, you may have heard recently about an investigation currently underway with U.S. Customs and Border Patrol employees. I mean, basically, disgruntled employees have come out now as whistleblowers claiming that unqualified employees are taking advantage of something called administratively uncontrolled overtime. And this special overtime policy was established to support certain employees who require irregular, unscheduled, but very necessary overtime. And the law is very specific, and this type of overtime is meant to protect those key employees. Well, with a time system that has advanced pay policy features like stratustime, these qualified employees could be put into a pay group that, first of all, simply gives them access to even receive administratively uncontrolled overtime. And with the sophistication of stratustime, administrators could easily run regular audits, even pre-scheduled reports to be delivered right to their inboxes, just to ensure that all overtime hours and funds are being allocated appropriately. This would not only eliminate abuse, but it also eradicates any uncertainty among other employees who might suspect that coworkers are abusing the system. So, does this sound familiar at all? Let's say you identify what you think is going to be a great system to support employees. You configure the system to meet the needs of your organization, you implement the system, you train the employees, and then after some time passes, people just stop using the system and resort back to their old tried and true approach that really wasn't working in the first place, but it's what they're really most comfortable with. So how unbelievably frustrating is that? And it's quite shocking, really, to hear. A Gartner study revealed that fewer than 30% of potential users of organizations' business intelligence tools are actually using the technology. And according to the study, there are 3 main reasons why this happens. The first is ease of use. If the system is hard to work with, or it's not intuitive for the user, or even sometimes if it just plain old looks bad, employees will stop using the technology. If you think about the smartphones your employees are carrying around in their pockets, our society has grown accustomed to a certain type of software interface, and HR software is no exception. The second is performance. If users are frustrated with reporting production delays or query responses, then they're also likely to stop using the software. Or they might use it sparingly, exporting the data they need into something more comfortable, which might work for them in the moment, but long-term limit the productivity your organization was hoping to gain from implementing such a system. And the third is relevance. If the platform doesn't include information that users need, or the integration the time and attendance system is supposed to have with, say, the company's ERP software or payroll software doesn't work the way it should, then users will definitely stop using the platform. So here's what the employee dashboard looks like in stratustime. This is if the employee is accessing the system from his or her desktop computer. The widgets at the top of the page predict the employee's next action, clocking in, beginning a meal, ending a meal, transferring to another job or another department, or clocking out. The punch is recorded in real time and it's displayed on the employee's manager's dashboard. The employee has easy access to schedules and time cards, can run any appropriate reports, and can review PTO accruals and request time off. Everything is clean, simple, intuitive, and can be customized based on the needs of the employee. Like the employee dashboard, the manager dashboard is intuitive, easy to use, and is even more customizable to meet the needs of the manager and his or her department. Because stratustime uses a separate processing engine for generating reports, slowdowns are easily avoided. And because it's built with HTML5, the code is cleaner and it allows for better browser cross-compatibility and mobile optimization. Employees can also easily clock in, begin a meal, end a meal, transfer, or clock out right from a smartphone with internet access. And this is the same is true, for requesting time off and reviewing time cards. And the manager dashboard still features the same type of status board to show which employees are in, out, absent, or away on a meal or a break. And managers can review exceptions, missing punches, alerts, and approve those time off requests that I talked about earlier in the webinar. The other great feature of the mobile interface is our geolocation technology. When an employee clocks in or out from a remote job site, the punch drops a pin to show the manager precisely where the employee was when he or she clocked in. This ensures that employees are truly where they say they're clocking in from, and not clocking in from the couch or a local coffee shop. And the next feature that we're working on, which will be released later this year, is the option to add geofencing. And this technology, what it allows you to do is establish a specific area in which the employee would need to physically be to literally prevent him or her from clocking in an unauthorized space. These features are intended to help you maintain compliance, to eliminate time theft, and to keep employees engaged in the work they're being paid to do. Now, I've gone very quickly through some highlights of stratustime, but in no way have I shown you just what the software can do. But I hope that what you've taken away is that stratustime was created to meet the needs of employees and managers. And the other great thing about cloud-based software is that we deploy new features and increase functionality every 2 weeks. So we're continually making enhancements to the software to ensure that it's working for you, supporting you, and not the other way around. We've covered quite a bit today, and yet there's so much more we can discuss about what an automated cloud-based time and attendance software system can do for your organization by keeping your employees actively engaged in their work so you don't end up paying part of that $350 billion bill that comes alongside a disengaged workforce. And if you're interested in diving deeper into stratustime capabilities, the next best step is for you to schedule a customized virtual demonstration. Our implementation team works very hard to configure stratustime to meet the needs of every client, as no two organizations are completely alike. So now I'd like to open the webinar up for any questions that you might have, and you can go ahead and enter those. If you haven't yet, you can enter those questions directly into GoToWebinar's control panel, and I'll be able to answer them as they come in. And actually, I've also just been joined by Stephen Garone, who is a senior advisor on our online services and labor team. So if you have any highly technical questions about stratustime, don't hold back. Okay, we already have some questions here. So the first question, it asks, do we integrate with SaaS, ERP, and CRM applications, specifically NetSuite? And actually, yes, we do. In fact, we quite recently integrated completely with NetSuite. We actually have a single sign-on, and we have stratustime available directly through the NetSuite dashboard. And any of our technical sales engineers can actually show you a demonstration of how that works within NetSuite. The next question is, how much does this cost? So stratustime operates on our budget. It goes on a per employee per month contract, and actually the contracts are just month to month. So there's no year-long commitment or 5-year commitment that other companies do, and you're basically just paying for what you use, what your active employees are using every month. And the price really varies depending on what functionality you need. So there's a base, and then depending on if you need to add advanced accruals, or you want to access mobile, or use our points tracking module, that might change the price. But we can get a quote for you if you'd like to connect with us offline. Next question is if the cost includes support, and what type of support you offer for end users. And since Steven's here, and he's in support, I'm gonna go ahead and let him answer that question.
All right. The cost does include support, which allows you to call in or email in for any sort of questions that you may have with the system. In the support area, we do our best to make sure that we help you to be able to gather the information that you require to continue to utilize the system properly, so that you don't have any issues. And if you have issues, we're there to solve them and to walk you through making sure that everything is set up properly on your end, just in case, like if you needed to change what your accrual rates are or something along those lines. We will walk you through that process, so we make sure that not just to do the work for you, but also to make sure that we educate so that you don't necessarily have to continuously call us up, so that for a variety of things.
The next question is, can you set up the time clocks to accept both biometric and proximity swipes for the same employee? And yes, the clocks, you can have proximity, you could have a swipe, or a biometric, and so you could use whatever functionality that you wanted to use for those employees.
Yeah, for that, the biometric is not a requirement of utilizing the time clock. There are time clocks come with availability to have if you just want to have biometric, if you want to have the biometric with like a badge swipe, if you don't want badges at all, just the biometric, or if you want to do proximity or proximity with biometric, all of those are options that are available. So you don't necessarily need to choose one or the other. You can have them kind of work in together.
The next question is, can you use multiple mobile access tools and capture geo-tracking, for example, smartphone, iPad, etc.? Yes. The short answer is yes. The great thing about any kind of a mobile interface, so if you're using like an iPad or some other kind of a tablet or a smartphone, the thing when you're accessing a stratustime via a mobile device, as long as it has internet access, you're fine. The difference, one of the differences between our mobile interface and some others is that ours is not an app. It's nothing that has to be downloaded or installed. It's simply a mobile website. So all you need is internet access, and you can capture that geo tracking. Question about multi-manager support for, say, retail, and I'll let Stephen answer this.
There are a variety of options where you can have a primary and then secondary managers for any sort of employee group. So let's say in the instance of retail, you would want to have like the general manager of the store be the primary manager, but you would also have secondary managers who have other abilities as well, and those could be determined on a per manager basis as well. So let's say you want to have a general manager who is able to put in or to approve or deny time off requests, but you don't want your junior managers having that ability. You could allow the senior manager to have that, but not any of the other managers. Or you could have allowed some of them or all of them. It's very customizable per manager, and there can be multiple managers in an employee group.
There's a question, if we provide the hardware for the employee punching in, like the biometric devices, and is that a lease cost or a fixed purchase price cost? So we do create our own time clocks. We configure them, and we either sell them for a fixed cost, or you can also lease them on a monthly basis. That's like for that kind of hardware. Some of our other services, like if you're using mobile to clock in or IVR for like telephony, that would be also on a per employee per month basis. So you just be paying for the employees that are using that type of data collection. About the time clocks, can they be used wirelessly? The short answer is yes. I think Stephen's going to add more to that.
You want to make there are certain conditions for which for which that you need to make sure that your wireless network is set up on. For instance, it would have to be it would just have to be like a password entry. If you're going to have something where the time clock or where someone would have to log into a website after they have connected to the network, that does not work with the clocks, but regular wireless does work with the clock.
Okay, there's a couple of other questions that we're getting that are getting a little more into the nitty gritty. And now that we're at the end of our time that we scheduled today, I'm going to go ahead and we'll answer those questions offline. There are questions about some schedule sharing support and door access controls. We'll get you those answers just after this webinar, and then any other questions you might have. Let's see, there's one more. Let's see. Limitations to any functionality noted. We'll get in touch with you just after this webinar so that we can answer any of your questions that you have that are specific to your organization. So thank you so much for joining nettime Solutions for boosting employee engagement with automated cloud-based time and attendance. We're going to email all registrants a recording of this webinar, and it's going to be posted on our website and our YouTube channel. And we also will answer all of your questions that you have. Thank you so much for all the questions that you're asking. They're very important to us, and we want to make sure that we answer them thoroughly for your unique needs for your company. And if you want to learn more about stratustime and see if it's the right automated time and attendance system for your organization, you can give us a call at 1-800-561-6366, or you can visit us online at nettimesolutions.com and you can request a customized demonstration. I just want to say thank you again and have a wonderful rest of your day.